everyone, I'm really excited to be hosting this chat to talk about all the amazing things that Rise are doing at the minute, and in particular in this chat their NE movement campaign. I'm joined by a fantastic panel of experts in their field, so I think the best place to start would be for all of you guys to introduce yourselves, share a little bit about who you are, what you do, and your area of expertise. So if I can first of all throw over to Robbie Thompson, personal trainer and lifestyle coach.
Hi everyone. So I'm a PT and lifestyle coach, and I live in Newcastle, and I work with people who are looking to improve how they feel, how they look, and how they perform. So that's whether it's weight loss, whether it's getting fit, whether it's improving productivity and performance and work-life balance. And everything is very much around, my whole ethos is start where you are, do what you can and feel good about that. And that's why I kind of really wanted to get behind this, because it seemed very much in line with my own sort of views on and beliefs on health and well-being.
Fab, thank you Robbie. And if we would go next to Helen Lindsley.
Hi there, my name's Helen. I'm an HR business partner and I work for a local transport company called Nexus. Alongside my HR business partner duties, I drive wellbeing within the organisation. Organise campaigns, initiatives and what have you. But we also feed into the Better Health at Work Award, the local North East regional award.
Thank you, Helen. Next up, let's go to Gavin Cogden.
Hi everyone, so I'm Gav, very similar to what Helen's just said there. So I've just took a new role with Great Annual Savings. So I'm the Group Health and Wellbeing Manager. So when we're looking at health and wellbeing of the staff, that's pretty much my role. The difference, I suppose, is I have got a background in health and wellbeing, working within similar to Robbie, whether it's like a personal coach with people, whether they suffer from health problems, whether they're already exercising. We're going to have a team here who can therefore support the staff on site. We've also got field-based staff down London, up all the way in Scotland. So the real challenge is how do we get an offer that's for the headquarter staff, but how do we also help the health and wellbeing of the staff who are in the field and they don't feel kind of left out. So how do we kind of bring that together? And the same as Helen, like that Better Health at Work Award, which is the kind of we're in that continual excellence. So that's what we're trying to achieve for all the staff.
Fab, thanks Gavin. Next up, Ruth Stevens, could you give us a little bit about yourself?
Yep, I'm Ruth Stevens. I work for Northumbria Healthcare Trust, and within the trust I lead on physical activity within the public health department. And we're working with Rise on a lot of initiatives to promote physical activity for patients and for staff.
And then finally, Claire Morley, please could you give us a little introduction from yourself?
Thank you, Katie. Hi, I'm Claire Morley. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Rise. So we're the active partnership that covers Northumberland and Tyne and Wear, and we're really here to try and ensure that we can use physical activity across a range of sectors to improve lives across the North East. And we're really, really passionate about the NE movement campaign, because we're really trying to get the message across that any movement that anybody can undertake in their day-to-day life is going to make a difference to them, both in terms of their physical well-being, but I think particularly at this point in time with the pandemic that we're living through, their mental well-being, and it's just so important for them to be able to get out and do some movement of some description. So it's great to be able to talk with the panel today about those kind of ideas and aspirations.
Thanks Claire. I'm really keen for us to start at quite a basic level with this chat, because there's a lot out there in the press, in the media, on social media, encouraging us all to do more, to be more active, to move more, to exercise more. But there's so many messages. What does it really mean for your regular person on the street to move more? Like, what is classed as movement? Is it your housework? Is it your gardening? Or does it have to be your more structured activities? Gav, if I would come to you first.
This is something that probably frustrates us all, but exactly what you're saying there. So I think people need to distinguish between the two things, exercise and physical activity. Exercise has always been planned, something structured. So, for example, people might attend classes, etc. And I think that's where the message gets mixed up because people feel that that needs to happen. And what we're trying to obviously promote here is just that general movement, which is physical activity. Anything where we move in is pretty much the message that we're trying to spread. So I suppose the take home for me and the staff here at Great Annual Savings is how do we move more throughout the day, whether that's be from getting out of the car, whether that's active travel, bike into work, whether that's obviously getting off the bus stop a bit earlier. People don't realise the difference that does make. And I think that's the message that I definitely want to leave with today. How do we challenge people to move more from a day-to-day basis and not almost get wrapped up in that exercise world of I've got to attend a class or I've got to do something hard. It's just how do we move more.
So, Robbie, over to you next. Would you say that everything counts with official guidelines prescribing 150 minutes of activity a week? Does it all count towards the 150?
My whole sort of stance on it is if you're doing nothing, then going for a walk around the block is your win, and that's where you go with it. And whether that's, I quite like what you're saying there, Gav, actually, about classifying it as exercise and just actual general activity, but just start where you are and do what you can and feel good about it. But I think in the time I've been in the fitness industry, and I think we're almost to blame because it's come a long way, but I think when I started, I don't know, maybe sort of 10, 12 years ago now, it was all about the grind, it was the hustle, it was training insane, and everything was, almost like training has to be really hard, otherwise it's not training. So therefore people think, like Gav said, well, if that's what fitness and health and exercise is, then surely me going for a walk around the block or getting off the bus to stop early or whatever is pointless. But I'm totally with you. I'm all about celebrating what you can do. It's never pointless. It makes a massive... If that makes you feel better, then it clearly can't be pointless, and that can be the start for you to then build on that, and then you do something else, and then it builds that positivity. Always it's a ripple effect, you know what I mean? So I don't know, going back to what you said, Katie, I don't get too caught up in kind of what's... I know we should all be trying to be active, but I just always try and start where the person is and just, well, what can you do? And then build from there, if that makes sense.
Claire, have you anything that you'd like to add to Robbie's comments?
I think the only thing to add is really that maybe the sport and physical activity sector as a whole has maybe done itself a disservice, and it's kind of latched onto the Chief Medical Officer's guidelines that you mentioned, Katie, which is about 150 minutes of moderate to vigorous intensity exercise per week for adults. What does that mean, and how do people relate to that, and how can they fit that into their life, and how do they make that an achievable figure? And so actually it's not about talking about 150 minutes, it's about talking about introducing movement into your day-to-day life, and actually you can then achieve that 150 minutes over time. We're not asking you to go from 0 to 150 overnight, but maybe as a sector, we've not necessarily been really clear on the different ways in which you can build up to get to a point where you're doing a great service to yourself. You're undertaking self-care essentially, whether that's for your physical or your mental well-being. So that's why I think the campaign that we're doing with Any Movement is so important, because it is literally that. It's about any movement. It's about taking the bus, taking the stairs, standing at your desk rather than sitting all day long, going out for a walk, playing with the kids in the park, whatever's possible under the current restrictions. It does count, and I think we've maybe missed that message sometimes, that it can count and it can all accumulate towards getting towards your 150 minutes, and we should maybe not be too bothered about that target. Just think about building it into your everyday life.
Yeah. And it's harder for some people than others, depending on what job you do, how much time you've got available. Helen, how do you try and encourage your staff to do more, to be more active in what could potentially be a sedentary job?
Yeah, we've got obviously operational staff who've got guys out there working on metros, train drivers and what have you, and we've also got the desk-based staff. Last week we ran a campaign called Sunshine Week, and it was sort of led by our senior directors to get staff to move away from the desk an hour a day and take part in some sort of activity, whether it be a fitness class. We put on some virtual fitness classes for staff to attend between the hours of 12 to 1, or, you know, even just taking yourself away at 3 o'clock to take yourself a walk around the block, because obviously we've got shift workers out there. So potentially there is an impact if we take a shift worker off of driving a train. So what we did say, you know, let's just take an hour out of your day, and it was led by our senior leadership team. So they all took the hour out and what have you, and we got a mix of people taking part. So we got the likes of area controllers who work on the bus stations. They would maybe go and do station checks on foot, whereas they might get a metro to a station and do a station check. So it was looking at the different ways of getting people to be active, not so much taking a part in an exercise class, just be active within the week, last week of Sunshine Week.
Claire, you mentioned about the intensity of exercise, and Robbie, you touched on it a little bit as well. Ruth, for you, how intense should these 150 or more, preferably, minutes a week be? And what, for anybody watching this who's thinking, right, okay, I can move myself more, I can be more active every week, every day, but what should it feel like when you're doing that movement? What should the physical response be?
I think it's really important that the Chief Medical Officer guidelines, there's three very clear points, and it's about every minute counts. Some is good, more is better, and it's never too late to start, and just make a start today. So in terms of looking at where the person is starting from, just doing a few extra minutes each day will start to make a difference. 2 minutes of being up and moving around the house has physiological benefit because you get the blood flowing back up from your feet from where it's been pulled when you've been sitting down. I think so long as the activity is something that the person wants to do, it's realistic, that it feels comfortable for them. So you would hope that they would feel a little bit warmer. Their breathing might start to increase, but you should still be able to sing as you're doing that activity. You shouldn't be gasping for breath. If you like and you're able to do a more vigorous level of activity, then actually the guideline is you should be aiming for 75 minutes of vigorous exercise, but that is exactly what you have to plan. You have to plan for the more vigorous level of activity, and you would be a little bit out of breath and a lot warmer, but it should still feel manageable and it should always feel comfortable. And I think it's sort of there's so many ways for us to be active that it's what's right for you, and just by reducing sitting time, and even if that is getting up during the TV adverts, or if it's being stood up when you're on your phone, walking around the house, walking around the office, but just breaking up every sort of hour, how long you've been sat still for is really important. And it can be as simple as wiggling your toes, but if you get up and move around, that's even better. And I think we just have to be realistic. For people who do absolutely nothing, the biggest benefit to them and to public health is for them to go from doing nothing to half an hour a week. And that's quite, building up to that, ideally half an hour a day would be better. But for some people that might not be realistic. And depending on people's health and how that health condition affects them and their ability to be active, then actually 5-10 minutes but repeated 2 or 3 times in the day, it is great.
Just on the intensity there, because I think it was really good what Ruth said, is that the talk test. So I think, like, if anybody who's listening to this can kind of take one thing away from intensity, it's exactly that. So I think if we distinguish between the bottom two, especially like the light and the moderate, so we know that, like, definitely if we want people to move more, and that's that message, literally move, we're probably classifying that as in light, and there's so much benefit to that, and that's where people might just need to start. And I think that's the message today. Can we get people moving more? Definitely is something that we are trying to do here within the building, and my message to everybody else will be, and I'm sure everybody on the panel will be the same. The moderate intensities, where kind of I'm interested in as well as raising awareness, because if the people are doing light and they want to move into that next direction, that is a great message and like an understanding for them to have. So if we can get people to move more, brilliant. If the people then want to kind of start getting slightly out of breath, but they can do that talk test where they can talk to the partner who they're walking with, if that's something that they're doing, but they can't sing a song. That's the real, again, we just adding to the information that people are getting. So I think my challenge is how do we get people to do more light activity, and then over time we know that the moderate activity does give more health benefits over time, which we can just kind of give more education to people as well.
Well, thanks for that, Gav. I think practical advice like that is great, because for people who are maybe just getting started, even just the terms light and moderate intensity, it's like, what do they mean? But I think they're great descriptions. So thanks for that, guys. I'm actually really intrigued to know what you all do in terms of movement, and what do you enjoy, because perhaps this is going to give other people some ideas. And most importantly, why do you do it? And I ask this because, touching on what Robbie said about back in the day when it was all about let's go hardcore, let's turn beast mode on and all that kind of thing. There was a lot of that sort of language in fitness, and a lot of it was based around aesthetics and changing how you looked. But now I think a lot of people exercise for different reasons. So I'd love you guys to share your favourite type of exercise and why it is that you choose to move your body more.
Go on, I'll jump in and start on that one then, Katie. For me, I grew up in a kind of a sporty household. I think that's probably why I've always been active since a very young age. And netball was the kind of activity that really grabbed me from when I kind of started high school. And I've always played netball all through my life, and I still do now when it's permissible. And the thing I love about playing a sport is just that kind of sense of friendship and camaraderie that I have with the other girls. And it's not necessarily about the result or how high a standard or lower standard we're playing at. It's just about the fact that I get to see my friends twice a week when we go to train or when we play a match. And I've moved around the country a bit, and I've always tried to find a netball team when I move somewhere new, because it's a great way just to meet people. I think as an adult you don't really have those forums outside of maybe your workplace, so I find it's a really great way to just meet new people, make friends, and have a chat and a whinge sometimes. It's been hard not doing that during lockdown, and as I've got 2 young kids, it's really been for me just about getting out and getting some fresh air, taking a walk, taking the kids out on their scooters, and I'll jog along beside them. I live near the beach, which is great, so I try and get down there most days, even if it's just for 10 minutes, to kind of see the horizon and realise there is another world out there, and it's not all about the 4 walls of my house. So netball normally for me, but a bit of walking and running during lockdown.
Fab. Robbie, do you want to go next?
Yeah, so I've kind of, like Claire, I would have had like a sports background, loved playing rugby and got into the gym through that. And I love going to the gym and I love lifting weights, but I'll usually get a good few walks in, if I'm on the phone. I hate just being sat on the phone. I'll go for a walk while I am, and getting out in sort of nature and fresh air. I find it's great to just clear my head. If I get writer's block, or I can't think of a solution to something, or go for a walk is just, I think, one of the best things you can do for that. And I think that social element that Gav touched on that can come from walking, whether you're ringing someone or going for a walk with someone as well. So yeah, I would do weights, I would walk, but since the last lockdown I've really got into running. I got nominated for that Friends 5k thing, and I was having a really bad day and I was really annoyed I'd got nominated. And I went on a run, and about halfway through the run I just kind of had a word with myself and got a bit of perspective, and I guess experienced the sort of the runner's high and the endorphins, and kept running. And I'm now sort of running sort of most days and love it. And it's like walking. You get the mental clarity, you get the headspace, and there's also a comfort in the fact that it doesn't matter that the gyms have closed. I can go for a run, I can go for a walk, I can still do that, and it's, I'm not dependent on somewhere being open to get my kind of fix of health and well-being, I suppose. So that'd be how I do it.
Well, thank you. Helen, what about yourself?
The best type of fitness for me is taking time out on my spinning bike. Really enjoy 20 minutes hardcore and following an app, doing a spinning class in the garage. There's no excuse really in this lockdown. There's always a way to get out there to do something, whether it be your own makeshift gym in your garage, in your front room, whatever, or getting out in the fresh air. So yeah, I try and do it on a lunchtime, to be perfectly honest, because it is good. It gives me a break from my workplace, and also with me working from home, it's quite hard to sort of switch off sometimes. So just that 20 minutes in a lunchtime, refocus, come back to your desk, it just increases definitely my productivity. I definitely see an impact of just taking that 20-minute break to do some form of exercise. So yeah.
Thank you for that. Ruth, what about yourself?
For me, it's been something that I've done throughout my life, and it has quite changed from childhood through to adulthood. And I think for me now, it's about what's realistic. What can I fit in with my family, with work? I'm probably somebody who's fidgets, I suppose, and up and down from my desk. I will, go around to speak to people rather than sending an email. I'll go around to pick stuff up off the photocopier, and it's much more about going for walks, doing things that improve my strength and balance, particularly as I get older, and connecting with nature and being outdoors, and finding ways to sort of switch off from the pressures of work and the challenges that we've been working under, and just getting out into nature and sort of discovering a lot of the coast and a lot of the local parks and sort of natural space. It's just something that is easy for me to do, and I can always fit that in.
Fab. And last but not least, Gav, what is it for you, and why do you do it?
I find this question a bit difficult because with being in the industry, and I was a gym owner and all of these stuff, you feel like, I don't know, you've got to either give the perfect answer, and that's challenge myself probably is too much. So a bit like what was said there, I find I'm getting much better at this, and with lockdown we've got a dog, and the walking bit now, I went for a walk yesterday. I did 2.5 hours with a friend. I hadn't seen him for ages, and we literally just walked for 2.5 hours. And I was just saying to people today why have I never did that before? Why is it took for now of us to start there? Kind of understand how important that is, which really links into today. But I think if there was one thing I would try to touch on is the strength side. I see a real importance of the just movement stuff, but the government do recommend that we were physically active with regards to strength training twice a week. And I think a lot of people see that as, actually, I've got to lift heavy things. I've got to do something what they see on the telly, and it isn't. It's about actually loading the body, whether that's lifting something with regards to shopping or anything. I'm a big believer that I understand why, but that's something I would probably see. I definitely love strength training, challenging myself, but also because I understand how important it is as well for everybody, regardless of age. That's the next step. We want to move more, but as well, if that can incorporate loading and lifting something, that will be a fantastic for some people to do in the daily life.
I think the big takeaway from that is find something that you enjoy, you're more likely to stick to it. And the old saying of variety is the spice of life. Don't always feel you've got to be doing the same thing. Mix it up and just move more in any capacity. Thank you for sharing that, because that was a bit of a personal question for everyone. We've mentioned gyms a few times over the last 5 minutes, and it's been a funny old year for gyms. They've been open, they've been closed, some things can run in them, some things can't. How has it been for you guys in terms of changes you've seen in people's behaviour? When gyms have closed, have you noticed that people have taken up activities outside of the gym? They've been a little bit more creative, they've gone down a different path. Have you seen an uptake in virtual training? Or have you seen people think, like my husband does, the gym's not open, I ain't exercising until the doors open again? So what's it been like for you guys? What's your experience been?
In the NHS, I manage services that provide physical activity. Is a key part of what we offer, and so we've had to adapt significantly to what's available. And it has been hard for people to be active, particularly during the first lockdown. But as a result of that, we were able to offer telephone support. We had a lot of self-help resources, support for walking, and we also made use of We Are Undefeatable, which is a great campaign which has access to YouTube exercise classes, but for people with all sorts of long-term health conditions. So it's supported by 15 charities, so diabetes, arthritis, mind, for example, Parkinson's, breathing, lung disease. So you can go on and you can find something that is really suitable. But of course, it's only suitable for people who can access the digital offer. But we can back it up, and we've offered telephone support, and it's worked really well to support people. And for some people, but not for everybody, some people have been very fearful about going out, but for others, it's actually been the thing that has pushed them on. And the fact that we only were allowed out, I think, for an hour at one point a day, that was the thing that got them out the house. And so for some people, it's been a motivator, and we certainly have got feedback from people who have managed to lose significant amounts of weight because of their worry about the risks that COVID could have to their health condition.
Just with the bits that I've seen is like how good people have done of like going virtual. A lot of people have, like, there's so many offers now that people have created, but the biggest take home for me was just I was down the beach, Katie, you're from Sunderland as well, so you'll know what the beach is like, and it was absolutely rammed. It was like 6 o'clock on a Saturday night, and I've never seen it so busy even during the day, and it felt like a summer's day. I would love like that to continue for my life, I think. So that's one thing we've said, once COVID's gone, if it ever is, or as like we get a bit more normality back, definitely going to try and make more use of like the open spaces around and like just get out as a family and rather than being in the house. So I think if there's one positive that it's brought is if people can continue that, people probably are moving more than ever really, or definitely this year through COVID.
And I think that point about being outside to exercise is a really important one, Gav, and Ruth, you mentioned it as well. There's some great work by Dr. William Bird, who looked at the well-being benefits of being in nature, and then has kind of overlaid the well-being benefits of being active in nature. And essentially you get a double whammy. You get the benefit of being outside and you get the benefit of the being active, and it can make you, particularly your mood, really, really increase. And it can be a real decisive factor for actually someone's long-term well-being. So, the gyms are a great resource, and it's a real shame when they can't open, and that is going to impact on a lot of people. And what we want to have is as many different opportunities as possible for people to choose how to be active. But I think the overriding message for me is, yeah, if you like the gym and you want to go, then do it. But don't forget the fact that you can get this additional benefit by being outside when you're active as well. And that doesn't have to be, your big session of the week or whatever. If you're already a person who's active, that can just be, going for your walk, chatting to your mate while you have a bit of a wander. And we've got such amazing outdoor spaces in the northeast, whether it's the coast or the hills or walking along our rivers. There's so many wonderful places you can just be outside in nature and have a bit of a wander, that people really hopefully have, through lockdown, have discovered some hidden gems, and I hope that they continue with that as we go forward.
Helen, how's it been for your workforce? What have you guys been experiencing? Are you seeing more uptake, or are people waiting for the gym doors to open?
I think we've been quite active. We've done a lot of wellbeing initiatives through the Wellbeing Committee by encouraging people to take part. One thing I'd like to share with you is we adapted the park run throughout the organisation. So what we said was to encourage people to go out there between Monday and Friday, and it was run over 4 weeks. So every week you had to submit you doing some form of 5K exercise between Monday and Friday, and we got a lot of interest from people doing that. And we saw people doing walk and talk meetings, so you'd meet your manager and do a social distance walk and talk, or meet a work colleague and do sort of a 5K run, or mix it up with a walk and run. And it was real fun for people as well. A lot of people came back and said, God, I felt great, even just seeing my work colleagues that I hadn't seen in a while. So we have had to sort of look further market and think of what things we can do, as I say, either whether it be virtual classes or doing some sort of step challenges amongst people on track, recording steps that way. So yeah, been good.
Fab. Robbie, how have you had to adapt your personal training offering over the last, goodness, it's about 9 months now, isn't it?
Yeah, so the first time around, it's brilliant being able to do it on sort of Zoom and FaceTime, and it's definitely not the same, and it brings us challenges, but it's great to be able to keep having that contact with clients and they still get their workouts in. And I just tried to get them like minimal kit, a dumbbell or a couple of dumbbells and some bands, and there was a little bit of denial, I felt like, in the first lockdown. It was almost just like people were like, no, I'll just wait till I get back to the gym. And then the longer it went on, people were like, okay, I need to do something. Whereas this lockdown, people were like, right, I know the plan. We're into FaceTime sessions. It's fine. They've got a bit of kit. But I do think it's very much a mindset of like, Helen, what you were saying, it's about like doing what you can. And if you're an active person and exercise is a part of your life, you do that. But I still found myself, well, I haven't got this piece of kit, or I haven't got as much weight as I'd like in the garage, or I haven't got, and then you've got to flip that, be like, no, but I have got enough to do something. It might not be what I want or would normally do, but I can do something. And I think that's kind of the mindset I've been guilty of it, but just actually getting clients to appreciate we don't need all the kit that's in the gym. We're going to get a great workout in and just adapt it, and maybe we'll include a run and maybe a walk or whatever. And I think I'd like to think there'd be a bit more sort of varied approach to it when gyms do reopen. People might want to keep doing a run, and they might, I do understand that going to the gym can be something where people just feel comfortable going and exercising in the gym. They don't want to go into public and exercise, and I think that must be quite hard for people to, but then there's been all this stuff on YouTube and all this stuff online that you can do, so it's just about trying to find a way to keep it a part of your life. And I think on the whole it's just been a case of adapting. It's not stopped work for me, which I feel quite fortunate about.
God, I'm always really interested to know how much somebody's upbringing and like family environment affects their willingness or their motivation, or sometimes people can feel quite nervous about starting to exercise. Like, how much of an impact do you think your environment has? And if you do believe there's an impact in environment and you're perhaps not in the best one, how do you go about making that first step?
That's a great question, Katie. That's a big one, and it's probably been the subject of quite a lot of research, I'm sure. I think, taking it back a step, I think we talked before about information and understanding how much you should be active and what that might entail and how out of breath you should be. And if you compare that to the 5-a-day message for fruit and veg, for example, we all know we should be eating 5 a day fruit and veg. It's a fairly simple message. We've all got it. We understand it. But how many of us honestly stick to that? Probably not as many of us that know the message. And I think physical activity and being active has got a similar problem around, even if we know the message, even if we understand that it's, I've just got to get a little bit out of breath and I can still be comfortable. The issue is actually about the motivation to do it, as opposed to necessarily the understanding. And so I think if you've been maybe brought up in a household where you've been taken off to do activities all the time, and you've had fun through that, and you've seen the benefits of being active, either creating friendship groups or achievement or whatever it might be, probably the ingrained sense of motivation to continue that into adulthood is likely, I would suggest, to be higher, although I haven't got any studies that can prove that necessarily. But if you've never lived in an environment where you've understood how you can feel when you do those activities, then maybe the motivation's not there, even if you know that you've just got to get off the bus to stop early, or you've just got to go for a walk with your friend. You can know all that stuff, just like we can know about 5 a day, but the motivation is the really, really tricky bit. And so for me, just to kind of finish my point, it's great that the likes of Nexus with you, Helen, and yourself, Gav, from an employer's perspective, are just, and I know that Ruth, you guys do it at Northumbria as well, just drip feeding that message constantly, giving the permission for people to move during the course of the day is so important, because you'd like to think that at some point that drip, drip, drip message about, go for a walking meeting, take a break whenever you need to, stand at a desk rather than sit, can help people to maybe think about the motivation for why you would do that, and then they can make that change to become active. So really key message for me is that employers give permission for people to be active, and hopefully that can help with the motivational change that we need, even if we know what we should be doing. It's whether or not we do it is the big question.
That was a great answer. Thanks for that, Claire. Anyone got anything they'd like to add to that? Go for it, Ruth.
From the studies, I think quite often this is the case, but it's the importance of the mother. And if the mother is active, that is very influential then on children being active. Not to put it all onto the mother. So, but also I think that if girls are not active by the age of 7, they don't pick it up. And I think for boys it's slightly later, I think it's 9, but it's really that early years is really, really important. And it's important just to have the opportunity to experience being active, but it's also important for their growth and bone and muscle strength. And the other key point is about the age of 11 or 12. It's a key point, I think, for children no longer engaging in being active, and it's quite a big transition. You might be coming from primary to secondary schools. If depending on what sport or activity you do, there can be quite a transition. So I do think early years, and the sooner that you can have a really positive experience. But hopefully, and whether this is where the importance of activity in schools is and certainly primary schools, that just to have a go at as many activities as is possible that hopefully families can do outside of school. And it's a bit like the workplace. So a lot of the staff challenges and promotion that we have with our staff around being active, we encourage it to be a family activity as well. And at the minute, we've just got a new one that's just starting about recycling bikes through the trust. Actually, what we've ended up with is quite a lot of children's bikes. But if that means that getting a children's bike that's the right size means that you as a family can then go out on your bike, that's great. And the knock-on effects, it's not just about how you get to and from work, it's what you do outside of work. And if that means you can go together on a bike ride, then we would be really, really supportive of that.
Yeah, I would definitely say that making it a family occasion, like from my personal experience, has had such a good impact, especially through lockdown. So I've got a daughter who's 10. She plays football, but together through this lockdown that we're in at the moment, we've been running together. And this kind of brings us on to the next topic that I'd like to touch on. Yes, the physical benefits of doing that have been great, but it's the chats we've had. It's the social element that we've all touched on in some way over the course of the last half an hour, but it's the things that she's spoken about, like things that she might have been worried about, things that she's seen in the news. Like, it's just a great way to get out, and because there's no other distractions, there's no phones, there's no Xbox, there's nothing like that, and just have a chat. So if you were looking for a real life case study to back up everything that you've just said, Ruth, here I am. I think it's ace.
Do they not say that, Kate? Do they not say that about, the walk and talk meetings where, like, in the past, if I've had clients where it doesn't happen very often, but if a PT client will come in and they'll just burst into tears, and you think they've just got loads going on, and I'll just say, come on, we'll go for a walk. And we'll just start walking, and I think we're side by side, we're not like sat over a table or, and as we're walking, we'll just, they'll start sharing or they'll not, but it's less intense. And I think, like, I've heard of the walk and talk in the workplace where those difficult management, whatever conversations feel less intense, or like go for a walk with your partner and having an awkward conversation. And I think there was something I've read, and I wish I could remember where, about you guys might know, but the rhythm of walking being calming as well. and it being linked to when we're in the womb or something. But I think whether there's something in that or not, I can kind of believe it, because it's just that kind of, it makes you feel more relaxed and maybe willing to share and open up or whatever. So I think I totally buy into that. I think that can be huge for sure.
So we have talked a lot about the physical benefits of exercise and how that should feel. But what about the mental benefits of exercise? Why should anybody watching this get up and move if it's not for a physical reason? Like, why else should they do it?
I think exercise gives you that feel good factor. Once you've done it, you've achieved it, and you feel good. And I think with the way things are at the moment, everybody needs that feel good factor. So I think even just going out for a walk, going around the block when the weather's nice or something like that, you come back and you've got that feel good factor that you've done something. And as I say, mental health, at the moment, we're all aware that there is a big decline with mental health and what have you. And we really need to promote the benefits what exercise has with mental health. And I think the more we sort of promote that, we might also encourage people to do a little bit more movement and exercise.
I absolutely agree. I think, again, we often focus on the physical benefits, don't we? And we say that how exercise can help you, reduce your risk of cardiovascular disease or help manage your diabetes, which can often feel quite far away issues, particularly if you're currently in what you think is quite good physical health. So I think focusing on maybe the closer, more sometimes more nebulous concepts, but if you can just sleep a little bit better because you've had some exercise, or you just feel more positive about life, which at the moment, let's face it, that's pretty tough, but actually getting some activity in and gives you that sense of positivity, and it can help. Yes, it can help if you've got anxiety and depression, but even if you haven't got a diagnosed condition, it can just help all of us to feel a bit better. I think, Robbie, you mentioned just going out for a walk or going out for a run when you've had some difficult things going on in your head has just really helped to clear your mind, and you can see things a bit more clearly. And as I mentioned before, if you can do that outside, you've got that added double whammy of being in nature, taking notice of what's around you, and all the kind of things that connect to the 5 ways to well-being. So it really is, we need to obviously push the physical benefits because that is really important. But right now, it's so important that we can all get some decent sleep, feel vaguely positive about life, and a little bit more optimistic.
For sure. Guys, anyone else got anything they'd like to add on that topic?
I would often just say that I'll say that like our health and well-being can be like a springboard or a safety net, so it can like help us bring our A game and be at our best on that day we want to be, bang on, or we're really struggling and we're really low and we just need to do something. And actually the habits for each are often the same. It's just going for a walk, it's just getting some headspace to really nail that interview or whatever, or just to lift your mood out of feeling super low. And I think if more like elite high performing people shared what they actually do, it would be, when you really break it down, it would actually be a lot more the basic little things like just being active, just getting up and getting things, just going for a walk, just getting enough sleep. And then maybe people would feel like it's less pointless, if that makes sense, because I often think that when you're telling people to do these little things, it seems insignificant, and it absolutely isn't. It's the building blocks to help you cope or build towards really being at your best.
Guys, you've shared some fantastic insights over the last hour. We've been talking for an hour. This is amazing. Just to wrap up, for anybody watching this who is either they're dabbling a little bit, they're moving, but perhaps they could move more, or perhaps they're not doing anything and really want to get into some sort of routine of being more physically active, what would your one piece of standout advice be to anybody that's watching this who just wants to do more but doesn't quite know how?
I think you need to strip away the stigma of I've got to have a 6-pack, I've got to be fit, I've got to look good and what have you. I think just taking that first step to do something, even if you set yourself to walk up the stairs 5 times in one go or something like that, just to get that feel-good factor, I think that's what I would advise.
I reckon I'd maybe go celebrate your successes. So if you manage to do something, tell people about it, share it with your friends, your family, put it on social media, just, give yourself a pat on the back. We're living through difficult times and you should celebrate what you can do. And then on the days where you can't quite make it, don't criticise yourself so much. Tomorrow's another day. You can get back on it then.
Mine's trying to make sure that people know why. So I think it's a famous quote where it's something like, if you could bottle physical activity and put it into one pill, it would be the best pill you could take. So I think if everybody knew that, and then we almost looked at, I would challenge people to look at their typical day. So whereas if they look at their typical day, Monday to Friday, and generally Saturday and Sunday is different, what opportunities have they got to build more movement into their day? That would be my challenge.
Thanks, Gav.
And I would probably, I would say trying to build the habit. So plan for a good day, but be realistic to know that the good days are often outweighed by the normal days where things don't go to plan. So have a strong plan B so you can keep your habit going. And I really like the kind of building a chain. So putting a cross on the calendar for every day that you do something for yourself. So your ideal might be a full body workout, but your plan B or C or D might be going for a walk around the block. But you keep building that chain, and then you start to build it and you don't want to break it. But in doing so, you're actively paying some attention to yourself, and you're doing something positive that you can kind of celebrate, as Claire said, for your health and well-being.
I think, this fits with what everyone's just said, is that every minute counts. Don't discount anything. So if it's about climbing the stairs instead of getting somebody else to take something upstairs for you, if it is about just doing a few sitting up and down from your chair whilst the adverts are on, it all counts. Housework, gardening, going for a walk, whatever it is that can get you moving will be important. And as I said before, some is good, more is better, and making a start that the benefits, you can gain the benefits at any age. It's just never too late. It's just finding something that's right for you.
Thank you. Guys, thank you all so much for your words of wisdom, your advice, your insights into what you do, and for those final thoughts on how people can get started.